have one speaker on that topic.
That's really good. Everyone was on
That's council use the paper version that's on the desk.
We have Karen Van Holton.
Hey everybody, I hope you can see me okay. So, most of you up here know, a lot of you out here don't know, I'm the one who proposed the ordinance for the pedicabs. And I know there were some words said earlier, but I couldn't see it here in the hall. So I wanted to shed some light on those, for those of you that don't know why I proposed the ordinance. So St. Patrick's Day, we had an amazing event downtown. And my mom drove all the way from Dallas to come to the event. She was really proud. I was a sponsor. I had a banner. And she wanted to come sit in my booth. Well, she got turned away by the traffic police, because she wasn't allowed to come in after staying at the booth. My mom's 72 years old. She takes a wheelchair at the airport. And the only way she got through was because she finally found somebody who knew me. And she said, "I'm Karen's mom. I don't want to have to turn around and go home." So I got the idea that if we could bring pedicabs in for special events, that was the first idea. And then I started thinking about special events for pedicabs, or pedicabs for special events. We have all this development around our neighborhoods, which means my neighbors are going to be getting in their cars, driving to bars, drinking and going home. So there are some concerns there. So I started thinking about it after I talked to my mom, and I said, "Mom, would you have ridden in one of those pedicabs?" And she said, "Well, what's a pedicab?" And I said, "Well, it's one of those things where somebody rides a bike and they carry you behind them." And she said, "Well, I don't know, Karen, because I've only seen those on TV or in other countries." So she hadn't really been to an event that had them. So I started doing research about how I could, as a business owner in Fulshear, also sponsor pedicabs for people who can't walk, don't want to walk, but still want to enjoy our special events. Even the wonderful events that we have at CCR. Daniel, my husband, and I live a mile and a half from the community center. So most of the events we just walk because it's better than having to park or whatever. So I started thinking, and so I started doing some research, and I started calling some companies that I could hire and sponsor to come to the city. And what I found out was I could hire anybody I want because we don't have any ordinances, period. I could hire people who had been convicted of sex crimes, people who had had their driver's license revoked, companies that didn't have insurance that covered their riders or their pedicabs, and I didn't have to pay the city of Fulshear anything for the licenses or permitting. That's what I found out. Is that a fair statement? Okay. So I thought, geez, I don't want my name attached to that, but most importantly, the really important question, how many in here love your mama? Yeah, right? How many of you want them riding in a pedicab driven by a pedophile or a drunk driver? Or if she falls out, they don't have the insurance to cover her injuries? And I was like, how do we get it so hot in here? I'm just a little verklempt. So I started putting together some ideas. And when I did, I called...
You're about at the end of your 3 minutes.
Oh, I called a bunch of people and found out there wasn't an ordinance. I put some ideas on paper. I don't know what the ordinance that you guys have looks like. But my idea is, if pedicabs are going to be good for our city, they need to be regulated in our city. And that is why the ordinance is here. Not because we're going to be descended upon by 10,000 pedicabs. But if I do it, other people are going to do it too. They're going to bring pedicabs in. We want them to be safe.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Can I would direct council to the copy that's right on our desk. The provisions of this ordinance aren't that dissimilar to what we reviewed last time. We reviewed technical changes. We've included a clarification on the on permitting. On the permitting and penalty. So the driver and the operator can be held accountable, but will be held accountable for the violation of the ordinance. Also, we took a look at limitations for the units themselves. Will not be allowed to have distracting lights, flags, flashers, or sounds emanating from the vehicle. And most importantly, a provision, obviously the exclusion of the operation of these vehicles on any roadway with a speed limit greater than 35 miles an hour that would be precluded from operating on FM 1463, FM 1093, and FM 359. During city events, we had initially talked about allowing them on to FM 359 north. The problem with that is the reality after our 4th of July event, there's no room. It would be unsafe. So while we designate the ability to come to a point on 359, a designated collection and drop-off point, very much similar to a cab stand during those events, doing this they could be operated. right now, if Ms. Van Holten wanted to, as she stated, these are bicycles, and they're treated as bicycles under transportation code and can operate anywhere within the city without restriction.
I just want to have, I want to reference my conversation with the chief today. I really respect Ms. Van Holten, that she's done great things for the community. She's a fabulous member of our community. There's some things that the chief and I talked about that could be a concern. And I think that the ordinance is a wonderful ordinance. It could just be changed a little bit, to give us a little more time to change it. So one of the things the chief and I talked about is visibility, so make sure that those pedicaps are very visible in the community. And the second thing is the enforcement of the actual pedicab ordinance. So we have the community, Cross Creek, master plan community, which would be a great place to have this pedicab, situation for all of us. But if you go further and try to hit 1093, 1463, and 359, in any instance that's more than 35 miles an hour, that would create a safety, it could create a safety hazard. And we really don't want to, we want to avoid that. So that's my concern, the safety hazard. And when I talk to the constituents, a number of them ask, why do we need a pedicab ordinance? So I think more education is necessary for the constituents. That's all I'd like to add about that.
I think this is an opportunity for the city to regulate an activity before it gets here. This is part of setting our framework, and how I read this is that because bicycles are just that, bicycles, they can attach a trailer, they can haul people anywhere, they can actually go on 359 and 1053 because under the transportation code they are allowed to be there. I think it creates more of a hazard by not putting the framework in there ahead of time. This is an opportunity not only for our city to regulate what happens within our jurisdictional boundaries, but if these are going to be used, it's a way to stay ahead of the curve. You know, like Ms. Van Holten said in her speech test, nothing stopped her from bringing them in, but for her appreciation for where she lives and what she wants to regulate. I mean, anybody could come in, any commercial sponsor could say, instead of putting a banner up on Mr. McCoy's stage with the chamber to sponsor the stage, they're going to offer this service to anyone who attends our festivals. They can do it. We don't have the opportunity to say who's going to be there, and I think it becomes more of an issue and a bigger enforcement issue for our chief and his staff in regulating this. And so the way I'm reading this currently amended one that's now on my desk tonight is we've added decals showing that they're slow moving. They have to have, let me just flip over here, headlights, taillights, braking systems, wheels with no broken, missing, loosened spokes, rubber treading on all wheels, reflectors, reflective tape ensuring low light visibilities from other vehicles, a slow moving vehicle emblem on the rear, and all the identifying information of who the operator, company, and vehicle number, in addition to eliminating distracting lights, flags, flashers, or any kind of sounds. And we also, this ordinance is saying that it may not operate on any state highway, which would include presently 1093, 1463, and 359, or any roadway with a speed limit greater than 35 miles an hour, which would actually take out some of the roads in Cross Creek Range. And that's just ones I'm familiar with because I drive down it and I know it's 35. I think this is a very proactive measure for the city. I think the fees are reasonable enough to keep people who are wanting to come here to not just let anyone in. I mean, the initial permit is $125. Each driver is $10. There's inspection and vehicle cost of $15, and additional supplementing operating permits within the code or in the ordinance as it's set out at $25. I just think this is a really proactive measure. I think this will enhance our tourism. I don't think that by passing or not passing, we're encouraging pedicabs to descend on the city, but I think we are certainly setting a framework and a structure for what we will tolerate as a small city going forward.
Do we have a motion or further comments?
I have just a question. I know we've already postponed once. I'm not asking for that. I just have some questions for my education and things we may need to add. Is there a training that the operators will have to do, like a bicycle safety training or anything like that we want to add to this? I know me and safety, but.
I mean, I don't know, is there a pedicab school or do they go to?
No. I don't know.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so I think in the ordinance, again, I don't know if it's, they have to carry a significant amount of liability insurance.
They do.
And so,
in the ordinance, it's set out as 500,000 and then 25, sorry. Yeah.
We have a metric. In all of the, and this is one of the parts of my research, on all of, if you have a pedicab company, there's a training that your drivers have to go through in order to be on your liability insurance policy. So there's a training process from my research. Again, that's what I did, and it was very careful.
Is that a requirement, is the insurance kind of company going, is that a driver requirement, or is that?
It's under, whenever you get the bicycle, you take the training, and then it's kind of as a guideline to running a pedicab company.
Okay.
All of these things encourage the training, and there is special training because of the way the pedicabs are pulled.
Do you know whether or not they can get through liability policies with of $500,000 and a $2,500 single occurrence medical without attending the training? So is it a requirement to get the insurance rider?
That I don't know, but other cities have included the requirement to take training, and again, I can't remember if I included it in my suggestions or not.
So my concern is the downtown city festivals chief told me that during the festivals, he does not allow any, in the security area, there's like no bicycles or any other moving pieces. So how would you remedy that? Because it's gonna have children running around, people with strollers, I'm concerned about their safety. Is it gonna be a route? If there is a route, I'd like that stated somehow in the ordinance.
It is, under pedicab operations
There isn't
section.
really a route, there's just a designated,
Well, I
I think
location to
CJ
drop off.
mentioned a designated drop-off, and again, there's so many scenarios where we're going so fast, but just say for instance, you got parking maybe at Huggins Elementary, people park over there, and then that's a way to get them back and forth, or shuttle them back and forth in some manner to the festivities.
I don't think you want to designate it a fixed route, because as we talk about on the 4th of July, we're looking at making changes to the layout of the whole event based on the growth and the size of the population. So if we say it's going to be this fixed site in the ordinance, and then 6 months later we're at another event, we decided, hey, you know what, it really didn't work around Second Street, we need to move to Third Street.
We just did that.
Right,
on 4th of July.
exactly.
That was my other note is, on here you do actually have, we could put it on Main Street 359, but not, it doesn't include the new routes, so that might
Right.
be something we want to consider. Adding the training, adding the new routes.
I would love to see pedicabs at Cross Creek Ranch or designated spots safely. It would be very nice to add to tourism or to the layout of the city, but I don't want them to be a safety hazard. I know right now we have very narrow shoulders. We have fixed to expand 1093, 1463, possibly 359. So I just want to make sure we're safe. Everything else is, great. I would love to have pedicabs, but safety comes first.
Have you been down Boat Ark on Saturday morning? Anyway, there's a lot of cyclists that are in a lot of dangerous situations. I think this would be much safer.
I have two more things. Just doing a little bit of Googling on this. There's two kinds, there's electric and gas, and the gas are currently really loud, and can we,
Yes, it's prohibited.
is that in here? I didn't see it.
What says electric?
Is it on the new one?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So can someone point that out to me, because I didn't see it.
Section 2, paragraph 1. Pedicab and tire show for bicycle, including those with electric
No,
motors,
it's right there, that's the
or
one.
tricycle, including those with electric motors.
Okay, and then, okay, sorry.
So we can include gasoline motors, but it makes it clear that the expectation is that they may be electric.
Right. I didn't understand the electric ones to have any sound.
No, it was the gas ones, when I researched this. 1 AM, they're coming from Cross Street. Last one, sorry. The color, is there any way to regulate the color? Because you were talking about making sure it's safe that you could see it, and then that way we won't have like a rainbow going on.
Right, I don't, I'm for that, that was anything we ever thought about. Like, in New York, you have to be yellow, you have, so.
Right, that's kind of what
I
I,
don't care. As long as my mom's safe and I don't care.
So if you want to.
My tie color.
That's probably hard to see at night.
red.
Safety orange or yellow or white.
Yeah, that way cars can see at night, and I know it has other stripes, and then that way we also have like one color of, like, have meet the city standards, and it's formalized. And that's a lot of changes, I don't know.
I just like the chief's input into this. It's very important for me for all of us to hear chief
seen it. I've never been in a city that's had it. So I'm not saying it wouldn't work. You asked about safety. To me, it's no different than the safety we have with our pedestrians and our bikes that already exist on our streets. I'm in agreement that our streets are not conducive to the type of traffic that we have with vehicles. So yeah, there is a safety issue, but I think we minimize that by restricting and enforcing those restrictions. I think that we can hopefully minimize any incidents we may have. So that's kind of my opinion on it as far as, you know, whether it works or it doesn't work. I mean, we have the same issue with golf carts. So we kind of went out of, you know, on a leap of faith on that, and we've not had any issues.
Mayor, based on all the comments and feedback from you guys tonight, as much as I don't want to do this, I think that we should probably postpone this to our next meeting, incorporate the comments, not that I don't want to postpone it, just we're loading up our next agenda kind of heavily in August, and incorporate everything that's been brought to the staff's attention tonight with the changes, and if you'll get with Ms. Tristan and Ms.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to postpone until August.
Thank you.
In August, we may have Petty County fireworks going on. All right. Thank y'all for all your research. I think those are some great questions. Chief and Ms. Van Holten, thank you for your work on this and your education. I knew nothing about this. All those in favor of the postponement, say aye.